Love is not a religion. It's a contract written in invisible ink. Most people spend their whole lives chasing unconditional love the way a child chases Santa Claus. They don't just hope for it. They organize their identity around it. They imagine one day someone will look past their flaws, past their failures, past their seasons of weakness, and still stay. That fantasy is expensive. It costs you clarity, it costs you time, and eventually it costs you dignity. Here's the rule. All love is conditional, not always transactional, not always negotiated like a marketplace, but conditional in the way gravity is conditional. If you step off the roof, the law applies. If a condition breaks, the feeling changes. This is not cynicism. This is eyesight. In this video, you're going to learn why the myth exists, how it traps people, and how to use the truth as leverage instead of letting it harden you. You won't leave romantic. You'll leave dangerous, calm, clear, and harder to fool. Welcome back. We are back with another one. Make sure you hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get into it. The most seductive lie in modern culture is this. If they really love you, nothing you do will change it. That lie turns love into a moral trophy. It makes you believe that being loved means being exempt from consequences, that if someone's love has limits, then their love was never real. But limits don't make love fake. Limits make love human. People love you because of what you are, what you represent, and what life becomes when you're in it. Change those inputs, and the output changes. Sometimes slightly, sometimes completely. Most men hear this and get defensive. They call it shallow. They call it cold. That's ego talking. Ego wants a world where it can remain the same and still be rewarded. The mission is not to mourn the truth. The mission is to build relationships and a life that can survive the truth. A transaction is a trade. I give you this, you give me that, a receipt, a negotiation. The conditions are different. A condition is a requirement for the bond to exist in the first place. Your friend doesn't pay you for friendship every time you show up. But if you become cruel, dishonest, disloyal, or unbearable, friendship changes. Not because they're evil, because the conditions that made the friendship possible were violated. This is how people actually work. Love attaches to patterns, safety, respect, attraction, competence, shared values, shared memories, shared direction. The danger is that modern people want love to be a pure feeling, floating above reality. But love lives inside reality. It breathes oxygen like everything else. Cut off the oxygen, and it doesn't matter what you call it. Your standard from now on is simple. Know the conditions you require. Know the conditions you provide. Never confuse a fantasy with a bond. Look closely at your circle. You love certain friends because they get you, because they make life lighter, because you share humor, taste, history, ambition, because you can relax around them. That's not an insult to friendship. That's what makes it real. But if the shared core disappears, if one of you becomes hostile to everything the other stands for, love doesn't stay the same. It can't. Not sustainably. People pretend this isn't true because they are afraid of what it implies, that they are not entitled to closeness, that closeness must be maintained. And here's the deeper layer. Conditions aren't always spoken. Most conditions are silent. They are revealed when pressure arrives. If you want to know what someone truly values in you, don't listen to their compliments. Watch what happens when you can no longer deliver what you used to deliver. That is where conditions show their face. Most people have tasted what feels like unconditional love. It wasn't in marriage. It wasn't in a decade-long relationship. It was early. And it was irrational. It was a crush. A crush is love without evidence. A clean hit of devotion to a person you don't actually know. You're not loving them. You're loving an image, a symbol, a possibility. Your mind fills in the blanks with gold. That's why it feels pure. No negotiations, no history, no friction, no consequences. And that's why it is dangerous, because that early experience becomes a template. Later, as an adult, you keep trying to recreate it. You keep thinking love should feel like lightning and innocence at the same time. But adulthood doesn't run on innocence. It runs on exposure. It runs on patterns. It runs on the weight of days. The action standard here is brutal. If you feel unconditional love for someone you barely know, you are not in love. You are under a spell. And spells break. The spell always breaks the same way. Reality speaks. It can be a careless comment, a cruel joke, a moment of vulgarity, a small act of selfishness that doesn't fit your perfect portrait. And suddenly, you don't see the one. You see a human being, not worse, just real. That's the moment most people mishandle. They either panic and cling to the illusion, forcing themselves not to notice the cracks, or they flip into contempt as if the other person committed a crime by not being the fantasy. But the real lesson is simpler. Your mind is capable of worshiping a stranger. That should humble you. If you can idealize that fast, you can misjudge that fast, which means you must slow down, you must observe, you must verify. Love that survives adulthood is not built on lightning, it's built on proof. Western culture didn't invent romance, but it polished one specific poison to a shine, the idea of perfect love. One of the roots of that ideal is a man who wrote history-changing poetry about a woman he barely knew. Dante Alighieri built an entire cathedral of longing around Beatrice, an image, a symbol, a holy obsession, not a lived relationship, not a tested bond, a projection immortalized. The result was beautiful literature. It was also a blueprint for modern confusion, because once a culture worships love as salvation, it treats the ordinary conditions of relationship as impurities. It starts calling boundaries insecurity, standards control, and consequences toxicity. No, it's not toxic. It's structure. A relationship without conditions is not romance. It's a hallucination. Your objective is to stop measuring love by poetry. Measure it by behavior under pressure. That's where truth lives. If you want to see conditional love in its purest form, look at family. A father raises a boy for 18 years, teach him, protect him, builds his life around him. Then an accident, a hospital, a test. The boy isn't his biological son. Nothing bad happened. No betrayal by the boy. No cruelty by the father. And yet something changes inside that bond. The father may still care, still show up, still act with honor, but the love is not identical. Why? Because one of the conditions, often unspoken, was lineage, identity, blood, continuity. This example isn't meant to condemn the father, it's meant to wake you up. Conditions run deeper than money or beauty. They run into meaning, into legacy, into how a person understands their own life. So don't demand love that ignores meaning. No one can do that and remain psychologically intact. The standard: stop asking, do they love me? Start asking, what is this love built on? Because what it's built on decides what happens when the wind shifts. A man and a woman build a life. Then the man collapses financially. Bad decisions, bad allies, bad timing, whatever the cause. The woman endures it, but something in her changes. Even if the money returns later, the sense of security doesn't fully return. Men love to label this. They call her a gold digger. They call her heartless. That's the childish interpretation. The adult interpretation is colder and more accurate. One condition of her love was provision and stability. Not because she worships luxury, but because she thinks in terms of family, safety, and future. When that condition breaks, her nervous system learns a new lesson about the man. He is less dependable than she believed. And men have their own conditions: attraction, respect, peace, sexual loyalty, admiration, competence. A woman can be kind and still lose a man's love if she becomes contemptuous or chronically chaotic. Everyone has conditions. The only difference is whether they admit them. So here's your closing rule. Unconditional love is an infant's privilege, not an adult's contract. If you demand unconditional love, you're demanding immunity from reality. Reality doesn't negotiate. That's the foundation. But knowing the principle isn't enough, in the next video, we go to war with execution. Once again, I appreciate you for sticking to the end. Make sure you hit that like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. I'll catch you on the next one.